virtual event tonight. But I keep, we're 9 days from Election Day. I can't help but keep thinking back 4 years ago to where we're not that it'll be a repeat. It's totally different, but it has a lot of the same feels of, Hillary took a different approach, wasn't out in certain states. You see Biden going to Georgia. Is that a play to try to expand the map? We don't know, but he's not. He's in his basement today, Jed, and the president still out on the trail.
Yeah, 9 days. I can't believe we're here. We're almost here. It's right around the bend. And yeah, there were some similarities in terms of people now questioning the polling once again because they felt very disappointed in the accuracy, lack thereof, I should say, of that accuracy in polling last time around. And of course, Joe Biden is a very different candidate from Hillary Clinton, so we should note that. And times are different. We're in times like we haven't seen before with COVID-19, with lockdowns. These are challenges that a president hasn't had to face challenges like this in a very long time. So it's a unique election, a distinct election, and one whose results, I think, will speak volumes on many issues.
It's a unique election because although we're counting down 9 days to Election Day, we all know it's already started. Some 56 million people have already cast their vote, including the leader of the free world. President Trump went to the polls yesterday, and he told you who he voted for. Listen to this. I'm sorry.
Only your vote can save America. This is the most important election. I never thought I'd ever say it. I never thought I'd say it after what we went through 4 years ago. I said that's going to be the most important. This is more important.
It's go time. It's game day. We have 10 days left. And it may come down to Pennsylvania. And I believe in you. I believe in my state. The choice has never been clearer and the stakes have never been higher.
That's both President Trump and Joe Biden encouraging people to get out and vote. President Trump did address the media yesterday when asked who he voted for. He said a guy named Trump. So he joins the legion of some 56 million people who have already voted, who have voted early. Here's a cover of the New York Post. You can see in just a moment. It's entitled Flock the Vote. Why? Because there are massive lines on the first day of early voting in New York City. So there you have it. While it's 9 days away, the process has already started. If I would highlight one thing, it's this. There have been promises made about positions on policies that would take place or be clarified before the election. Joe Biden on whether or not he would pack the court all over the place on fracking. Guess what? The election has begun, and we do not yet have clarification on some of those issues.
Maybe next week we could do a segment on people who voted early and then would like to change their vote based on what has happened in between. I don't know. Pro tip maybe, day one of early voting, you're going to confront a long line. Day 3, day 4, maybe people aren't out as much. The lines might be a little bit shorter, but it is emblematic. Of course, of enthusiasm, and the question is which one has more of it, and how do you fire up your base and create that contrast? And certainly, the economy and COVID-19 are front and center with very different approaches on how it's characterized. We're going to have a Democrat on the program earlier, and we'll ask, they make the claim that Obama gave this gangbusters economy to Donald Trump, and then they fail to acknowledge the slow recovery as well as what happened with COVID-19 from China. It's a big game as to what voters perceive as who would be prepared to take us out of this COVID-19 moment and reopen the economy to a place where their lives are better off than they were 4 years ago, Jed. And when you look at the surveys, it's interesting to see, despite of COVID-19, 56% of Americans say my life is better off now than it was 4 years ago. How does that translate into votes? Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is going to come down to safety and security in all its forms. We spoke to Lee Carter yesterday, who pointed that out very well. I think I hadn't seen lines like that before in New York City when it comes to voting, and I think the enthusiasm is on both sides. I think when it comes to President Trump, you do see it a little bit more regularly because he is doing those rallies, and you get to see the base, you get to see the crowds, you get to see the cars. I think with Joe Biden, it is a little bit quieter because he's not doing those front and center rallies. But I think that as much as people who support Trump are really passionate about voting for him and everything he stands for, I think there are a lot of people who are not necessarily pro-Biden, They don't love Joe Biden, a lot of them, but they're anti-Trump. And I think that enthusiasm is there as well. And you're right, Pete. The question is how many people will turn out? Was this just first day voting in New York City? Will it look like that straight through to the end? What will it look like in other states? A lot of states, I think, are going to be pretty close. And that's really going to be the test. Who really is more passionate? Who shows up? Because no matter how you feel about an issue, if you don't show up and cast your vote, it doesn't register. Your voice hasn't been heard in the same way. So we're going to be covering all that. And I think the exit polling on some of these issues are going to be fascinating in terms of how people really felt about the key issues that are facing the country. So we're going to follow all of that. And another thing that will be interesting to see is who people felt was more unifying for the country. A lot of people voiced their opinion, particularly independents and undecided, and say, I want someone who has the ability to unite, who has the ability to get stuff done. This is an interesting moment. While making his pitch to be president, who will unite the country, Joe Biden has said that many times, he made a comment in Pennsylvania. Check it out. Listen to what he had to say. Some are saying maybe that comment didn't hit home with that unifying message as well as it could have.
By the way, we don't do things like those chumps out there with a microphone are doing, the Trump guys. It's about decency. I'll work as hard for those who don't support me as those who do, including those chumps with the microphone out there. Look, that's the job of a president.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this is going to register because they both talk like this, right? Joe Biden talks like this. President Trump talks like this. Look at President Trump's Twitter feed. Arguably, that may be what people like about both of them. There's an unfiltered element to both candidates that I think people really like. So I don't know that people will register that. I think they'll probably laugh it off like they do some of the comments that President Trump makes. I don't know what you both think, but I don't think that's going to be because of the types of people that they both are. I think in some ways that's endearing at times, more so than anything, to be perfectly frank.
I disagree. I do not think that will be endearing, and I do think it will register and have a negative effect for Joe Biden. Let me tell you why. Quick story for both of you. I was talking to a friend of mine who spent the pandemic in Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. And he had a man he was working with on some house projects. And the man had come from a long line of Democratic family, union-based, for generations voted Democratic. He said his progression, though, went like this. When President Obama said they cling to their guns and their religion, his eyebrows went up. A lot of his friends and his family's eyebrows went up, yet they continued and they voted for President Obama. But when Hillary Clinton then 4 years later called them deplorables, he realized something. They hate me. They hate my life. They hate my family. They hate my friends. They hate who I am. He believes now they openly are saying they hate who I am. Many on the left talking about everyone who disagrees with them being racist or some other deplorable word. What they feel like, many people feel like, is there is open antagonism now. And I think this chump line feeds into that same progression from deplorables back to clinging to their guns and their religion.
Very interesting. We had a candidate who's running in Pennsylvania, Sean Parnell, touched on that topic, what he's hearing from voters and how they perceive a comment like that. Listen.
I mean, this is a disturbing pattern with radical leftists who run for president. With Barack Obama, people in Pennsylvania were simpletons who clung to Bibles and guns and religion. Under Hillary Clinton, we were deplorables, and now under Joe Biden, we're chumps. So in the span of a week, Joe Biden said, I'm a proud Democrat, but I'm going to run as an American president, and then comes to my home state of Pennsylvania and calls people that don't support him chumps. So look, this is quintessential Joe Biden, says one thing but does another. And I think the people of Pennsylvania ultimately will reject it.
You know, tectonic shifts in political allegiances happen, as you just described, Will, over time. They don't often happen instantaneously. Little ingredients add up, and then pretty soon a candidate like Donald Trump shows up and says, I'm throwing out the playbook. I'm going to be a disruptor. And listen, you union guys who may, on the surface, might not have a lot in common with me. We resonate on basic stuff like love of our country, belief in individual responsibility, hard work, capitalism, supporting the police. And suddenly like the blinders come off and you say, well, I've been taking this for granted, and I've been taken for granted by a party for a long time.
I think this antagonism, not just towards your opponents, but towards middle America and a way of life, is going to and already has begun to take a toll on the Democratic Party.
Just one quick point. Guns and religion is very specific. That's going after Second Amendment. That religion is deeply personal. Trump is a more generalized comment. And Hillary Clinton with deplorables, Hillary Clinton is not Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton was perceived very differently. Her likability was very differently. This is, I promise you, and when you talk to Joe Biden's supporters in particular, and people who are even on the fence, this is part of his likability. I highly doubt this will affect, and also part of President Trump's likability. I know that his supporters also look at that Twitter feed. Some of us don't like it. I've said on the show it drives me nuts. A lot of supporters say, go for it. You know, you're speaking your mind. There are people on both sides of the aisle that like that kind of talk. So I disagree a little bit, but great points made by both of you, and we'll see, right? We're going to see if any of this has an effect when we look at those results.
when they go at guns and they go at religion, they're going at first freedoms, and I think people start to see that, and then the labels follow.
That is different.
All right, turning now to a few additional headlines. A senior al-Qaeda leader is killed in Afghanistan. Officials say Afghan security forces killed him in a special forces operation. He's believed to be al-Qaeda's second in command. The U.S. put him on the FBI's most wanted list and issued a warrant for his arrest in 2018 on charges including conspiracy to kill Americans. Good news there. Democrat VP nominee Kamala Harris caught in a hot mic moment asking, well, if she's in Cleveland, while in Cleveland on the campaign trail.
Are you in Cleveland? Hey, Cleveland!
That's the best. Harris was in the city. She didn't know it for a moment, but then she knew it. And then she told everyone she knew it. Yes, you were in Cleveland. And Big Ten football is back with a bang. Indiana upsetting Penn State in a controversial finish.
Steps in. Looks Penix. And they're saying he is in.
Ooh, take a look.
Cross. Does he
bring
cross?
it in? Bring it in.
Does he fumble through?
Did he have it? Oh, I think that's a touchdown.
I don't know, Pete.
That is as close. See, that's why I don't like instant replay. Just let the ref make the call, and then we all celebrate. I am all in, not for banning fracking, but for banning instant replay. The Hoosiers beating the Nittany Lions 36-35 after that crazy two-point conversion in overtime. The play was challenged, but because they called it on the field, under review, it stood. And a big win for the Buckeyes. Ohio State dominating Nebraska 52-17. And Michigan steamrolling the Golden Gophers. The Wolverines beating Minnesota 49-24. We had a good team last year.
Yeah, Minnesota's on the rise, I think.
Well,
maybe not.
We were on the rise. The Wolverines will play rival Michigan State on Saturday, only on Fox, and those are your headlines.
I'm not going to opine on that. I'm going to spare you guys the misery. All right, still ahead, President Trump and Joe Biden offering up very different takes on COVID-19.
This election is a choice between a Trump super recovery and a Biden depression.
We're learning to die with it. There's a dark winter ahead.
Learning to die.
Dr. Nicole Saphier says the nation needs hope, and she explains that.
XM, anytime, anywhere. Fox News Audio on Sirius XM. America is listening.
COVID-19 cases topping 80,000 for the second straight day, with at least 7 states reporting record one-day totals. This as the flu season officially gets underway. So what should Americans know about their health? Well, let's ask Fox News medical contributor and author of Make America Healthy Again, Dr. Nicole Saphier. Doctor, welcome to the show. As always, love having you here. Unfortunately, this topic is getting a little scary. People are seeing the numbers climbing. We're entering flu season. What should people do?
Well, that's right, Jedediah. Flu season is officially here in the United States. We have a bit of good news that came out of the Southern Hemisphere. Flu season in the Southern Hemisphere has been negligible. So we kind of equate our trend, what it's going to be for our flu season, with that. But I will say, though, the Southern Hemisphere flu season coincided with those harsh lockdowns in May. So it's hard to say, was it the stay-at-home orders that really reduced flu transmission? The September CDC report with flu activity in the United States is telling us flu activity is way down right now, which makes sense, of course, because people are distancing, wearing masks, and everyone's washing their hands a lot more. But here we go. We're in flu season. We still have COVID-19 and we have flu. And they are both respiratory infections. They're both contagious. So really, you're going to do the same thing to prevent both of them. But the one thing you can do is get a flu shot. That flu shot will really help us not only keep flu levels down, but make sure we keep our hospital beds open if we need them for our COVID-19 patients, because you have to remember, hundreds of thousands thousands of Americans are hospitalized with the flu every single year. So while we are still in the midst of this pandemic, it is essential to keep flu activity down.
You know, Dr. Saphier, as we've been watching these two presidential campaigns, we've seen very different approaches to COVID-19. Let's take a little bit of a look at that contrast, and then I want to ask you about it.
This election is a choice between a Trump super recovery and a Biden depression.
Trump was still saying, we're rounding the corner. It's going away. We're learning to live with it. We're learning to die with it. There's a dark winter ahead.
So the approach has been different in terms of the rallies and then a lot of stuff being done virtually, and the tone is now very different. I care much more about what people like you have to say on COVID-19, the medical community. What do you think of the two tones, and what do you want to hear as a doctor?
Well, Jedediah, I can tell you just as a physician, each doctor handles bad news very differently. On one hand, you can have an alarmist. On the other hand, you can have an optimist that doesn't have any substance behind that. For me, you know, when I give a cancer diagnosis, which unfortunately I do that every single day, the one thing I do say to my patients is, this time next year, you're going to be in a much different place. That doesn't mean that the next year is not going to be difficult, but I do want to make sure that they have that hope, that they know that they are going to get over this. So for me, I like to think that I'm pragmatic. Yes, we're going into a hard winter, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are so much better now than we were before in terms of treatment and our knowledge on this virus. So let's continue to do what we can. We have to keep transmission down and keep people safe.
Yeah, Dr. Saphier, bringing the wisdom as always. Thank you for being here. And get her book, Make America Healthy
Thanks,
Again, one of my favorite reads this year. Thanks so much, Nicole. We are just 9 days from the election, but some voters are still undecided. So what will it take to win them over? We're going to ask our panel of undecided voters, all from battleground states, and that's coming up next.
If elected president, there'll be no red states or blue states, only the United States. It's time to stand up and take our democracy back. Donald Trump hasn't delivered on a damn thing.
Joe, you want to do all this stuff. Why didn't you do it? You were there 3.5 years ago. Do it. Why didn't you do it, Joe? You didn't do much, Joe. If you two did a good job, I wouldn't have run.
And with 9 days to go, a small percentage of likely voters are still undecided. So what will ultimately sway them? Let's ask our panel of undecided voters. Caitlin Singleton from Wisconsin, who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Christopher Formoso from Florida, who supported Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson in 2016. And Nick Golick from North Carolina also supported Johnson in 2016. Good morning to you all. I have a lot of questions for all of you. Let's hopefully get to as many as we can. Caitlin, I'll start with you. You voted Hillary Clinton in 2016. Which way are you leaning right now?
Yeah, so I am leaning more right now. I've just been doing as much research as I can, and even up to right now, I live in Madison. It's Middleton, close enough to Madison, very liberal. It's hard to lean left, right out here. It is completely blue and will always be, I think, forever. And so it's hard to even come out and say that.
Well, why are you leaning towards President Trump? What's the biggest issue that could potentially sway you from supporting Hillary Clinton 4 years ago?
You know, there's a lot of issues at stake. I think just the recent political environment is what has really gotten my attention. 2 years ago, I would have never even watched Fox News, never even listened, I think, to the president, and that, I think, is the issue there. So I've really tuned in, listening to both sides, keeping an open mind. The policies, I think, are what really is making me question. I support law enforcement. I also have 3 biracial children. I have a child with pre-existing conditions. I think one of the biggest reasons I was fearful of Trump, which he's now more recently come out, is regarding pre-existing conditions with health care. That was a big thing for me as it affects my son.
Right.
So his American First health care plan that he has now been talking about more recently is what really caught my attention.
Right.
I also am a Catholic, so there's religious beliefs there that I have that play a big role as well.
Let's get to you guys as well, both of whom supported Gary Johnson in 2016. Christopher, we'll start with you. Which way are you leaning now in 2020?
Just like Caitlin, I'm also leaning Trump right now. I do feel I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Trump, his indecency, some of his behaviors, you never know what you're going to get with him. I would like to have a president more presidential than what we've seen these past 4 years. But then on the Biden side, he's been a moderate his whole career, but he elected Kamala Harris, who's part of the radical left wing of the Democratic Party, as his vice president. She's an AOC lookalike. And as a Cuban American, my parents fled Cuba. My grandmother fled Cuba by herself with 2 kids and pregnant with a third. We fled a terrible place, but with hard work and making good decisions, we made it in this country. We love America, but that radical left wing of the Democratic Party, they talk about America as this evil, oppressive place that you can't make it if you're this or that. I grew up with minorities. My family, my friends were all minorities. We have never once said or believed that we were oppressed in this country.
Right.
With good decisions and hard work, we make it.
Let's get Nick in. Let's get Nick in as well. Nick, again, you supported Gary Johnson in 2016. Which way are you now leaning in 2020?
Currently, I'm leaning Joe Biden simply because I feel like he has a much more fleshed out plan going forward for some of the issues that I really believe in. I'm disappointed by his lack of a tougher stance on China, which Trump has a very great record on, and I'm also disappointed by the way that he's kind of going to be handling the economy and by his vice president's choice. I mean, if you had such a great wide variety of choices for if you wanted to pick a person of color or another woman, there were plenty of great choices there. I just don't believe in Kamala Harris. However, with Biden's record on education, which is very important to me, the environment, how we are going to get out of this pandemic, those are the more immediate and pressing concerns for me at the moment, which Trump just does not have a fleshed enough plan for me to vote for him this go around.
What specifically are you talking about, not a fleshed out plan? On the recovery from COVID-19, Nick?
Correct, but both COVID-19 and I'm an educator, so education in particular. I think if you look at his plan, it deals mostly with school choice as well as American exceptionalism, which are great. But we need a little bit more than that. I mean, the other day, Betsy DeVos, I think 94% of students who were on the public service loan forgiveness program, they had their claims denied, and that process has not been very transparent, and it affects a lot of public employees and people who are working in the nonprofit sector. So we need just a little bit more of a plan, as well as how to get through the pandemic, which, frankly, ever since Fauci left, I just have not seen.
Well, Fauci's still there, to be clear. He's still working with the administration.
Christopher, he's not in the inner circle, is what I meant.
Christopher, let me go back to you if I can. You're still undecided. Did the debates play a role at all in helping you make up your mind, or will they?
Yeah, that first debate made me lean left. Trump was a clown on TV for 3 hours on that first debate. This last debate, he showed a lot more civility, self-control, poise, and that was a great sight to see from Trump. Policy-wise, I felt they both didn't move the needle policy-wise in the debate, but his poise made me go back to leaning Trump.
Well, the debates are over. Caitlin, I'll go back to you. So we're 9 days away for all three of you. Let's do this quickly. What's left to change your vote? What moves you away from being undecided, Caitlin? We only have 30 seconds.
I think I will be voting on Election Day. At this point, I will be going in and voting on Election Day, and I will continue to do my research until then.
Okay, and really quickly, one word, a one-sentence answer. Chris, what could formalize your vote? What could put you in one camp or the other?
Biden, show me you're not part of the radical left.
All right, and Nick, that same question to you.
I would give the same answer. I'm going to stick with my libertarian friend over here. Show me that you're not part of the radical left.
Okay. Thank you all three. You're very interesting. Undecided voters always want to know what motivates and what's inside the minds of people who have not yet decided. Thank you for sharing everything you're thinking right now. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Don't fall for that, America. And I hate to curse in front of a woman, but that's a bunch of malarkey.
And we have our first malarkey. If you're playing Biden bingo at home, take a shot.
Good stuff. It's also unclear if you were playing Biden bingo, if you had come on, man. He didn't say man. He said come on.
Well, you and I set the over-under on come on, man, right? I said 6, you said 2. I think I get credit even without the man. He said a lot of come-ons.
Without the man, it doesn't count. Now,
no. It's different, Will.
No.
It's different.
You two ganging up.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you. Let's get a final vote on that from Mike Huckabee, Fox News contributor, former GOP candidate, author of The 3 C's That Made America Great: Christianity, Capitalism, and the Constitution. So, Governor, if he doesn't say man, does it count?
Come on, of course it counts.
Governor, thank you so much. Glad to have you here today on Fox and Friends.
We are glad to have you anyway, Governor. Anyway, we knew we could count on you. We want to get your take on a number of topics, including, we're 9 days out. 56 million Americans have cast their ballot. You even waited in the rain yesterday to vote early. And what's it like for Mike Huckabee to wait in the rain in line? I got to believe you're maybe taking a few photos, too. But what's your take on the energy in the race right now and everyone voting early?
I see the enthusiasm factor for Donald Trump, and I don't see it for Joe Biden. I see that there is an enthusiasm factor against Donald Trump by the far left, but I don't see people who are going out and saying, I just love how Joe Biden lays it out there. I mean, that would be, if they said it, a bunch of malarkey, because he doesn't lay it out there. I mean, in the last half hour of the debate, he honestly seemed to be fading, and I'm not trying to be unkind. I'm just saying that his words began to slur. It was like he was out of gas, and it was very evident watching in those last moments. Yesterday, watching his speech, when you see him, he's like an angry man standing on his porch telling you to get off his lawn. You know, he's got those eyes squinted and he's saying, there they are, a bunch of chumps out there. And it just seems like this is not a guy who's happy. He's angry, and he's flailing. I just think a lot of people are going to ask themselves, is this guy capable of being president? If you don't work hard to become president, what makes you think he will work hard if he becomes president? He has basically, as they love to say, put a lid on it, and has been under the lid now in these final days of the campaign. That's unbelievable and unprecedented.
Governor, I want to ask you about a populist message, because I think both candidates have really attempted to convey that populist message. Joe Biden now coming out and saying that Trump has forgotten about the forgotten man. This is him in Pennsylvania on Saturday. Take a listen.
Barack and I worked hard to earn and win your votes in 2008 and 2012. And I tell you what, it wasn't, I thought it was great to see him again out on the trail for me, quite frankly. But I understand why. Some people voted for Donald Trump. They believe they weren't seen or being respected or heard. Trump ran around saying he represents the forgotten man and woman in this country. I get it. But then he got elected and he immediately forgot the forgotten man.
Is that accurate, and does that line work?
It's ridiculous. It was Trump that got the tax cuts for the forgotten man, that put money in the pockets of every single worker in this nation. People deep down know that their pockets got heavier, not lighter, when Donald Trump passed that tax cut. They know if they're a small business operator, it got easier to run their business when Donald Trump took the regulatory burden off their necks. If they're a firearms owner, they know that Donald Trump has protected their Second Amendment rights and hasn't threatened it and put them under indictment like what we saw in this couple in St. Louis. If they're pro-life, they're no longer being chased and hunted by the IRS for the organizations they belong to. This is nonsense. Of all the things that Joe Biden has said, I think he forgot his own record as vice president and his record as a Democrat over these past few years. And he seems to have forgotten the positions he's taken, because he's taken a position to protect the elitists, to protect the people who went after Donald Trump from the highest levels of government. And there are a lot of people in America that look at that and say, if you can do that to the President of the United States, what could you do to me? And I hope people understand that this isn't about Donald Trump. It's about them. And they need to vote accordingly and not let Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get in, who believe in a big, heavy-footed government on their necks.
The fight for the forgotten man. It's a campaign message. I think it goes back to Calvin Coolidge. And by the way, Governor, you won't be forgotten here for having my back on Come On Man and whether or not Come On counts.
Come on, Gov.
I will always be welcoming you back. All right, Governor, thanks for your time today.
You bet. Thanks.
Still ahead, former President Obama making a final push on the campaign trail for Joe Biden. But is it too late? Jack Brewer weighs in next.
We're back with some quick headlines. Today, the Marine Corps Marathon is set for a race unlike any in its 36-year history. Participants will run the marathon virtually this year as a precaution during the pandemic. Runners will travel from the MGM National Harbor to the Francis Scott Key Bridge and back. TV's longest-running game show is set to get back on the air Tuesday without its biggest stars.
Come on now! You are the first 4 contestants on The Price is Right.
The Price is Right and host Drew Carey returning this Tuesday without a live audience as part of safety measures. Socially distanced contestants would still get the iconic call to come on down, just without the usual loud cheering from the crowd. I'm going to miss that cheering. Over to you, Pete.
Yeah, some things just can't be the same virtually. All right, former President Obama taking shots at President Trump as he hits the campaign trail for Joe Biden in Florida.
He did inherit the longest streak of job growth in American history that we got started. But just like everything else he inherited, he fumbled it. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't even acknowledge the reality of what's taking place all across the country.
Here to react, advisory board member of Black Voices for Trump, Jack Brewer. He also started the NFL Players for Obama back in the day. So, Jack, you've seen both sides of this. Do you think that former President Obama hitting the trail will be effective for Joe Biden?
I don't think so. You know, unfortunately for the Biden campaign, I think they were really counting on President Obama. But as you've seen from the debates, and every time Joe Biden speaks, it's never about the actual issues that he's going to put across. It's always slamming President Trump or trying to create these narratives. It's really unfortunate, whether it's immigration, where we all know that Obama actually created the cages and funded the cages that so many want to talk about. You talk about criminal justice reform that, you know, the Obama administration refused to go back against those mandatory minimums that incarcerated so many black men. I mean, these are things that the American people are now aware of, and they can't run and hide from these oppressive policies that Obama and Biden let go on for so long.
Real quickly, because the president said at the debate, you know, he looked at Joe Biden and said, I ran because of you. I ran because of you and Barack Obama. I didn't know you had been part of NFL Players for Obama. Explain your progression. Was it largely based in the policies as well?
Man, I got woken up. Pete, I got to tell you, man, when I started the NFL Players for Obama, I could literally quote his speeches. And, you know, I was just so mesmerized by his words. But, you know, as we got into the 5th, 6th year of his presidency, I didn't see any works. I didn't see any actual policies being passed to go along with those great words and those eloquent speeches that he was giving. And so I had to really, you know, look deep within myself and go to my faith. You know, I'm a God-driven man, and a lot of the policies and things that he was pushing just didn't align with me spiritually. And I think that was the same for so many Americans. And, you know, I work in the prisons, so to go into those prisons and see those guys locked up for so long and have a black president that did nothing about it really hurt. And so I think President Trump coming into the forefront and being just so progressive in his policies and deregulations and spurring job growth and really bringing opportunity to the most underserved Americans, that's what it was about for me. And I got to tell you, man, it's been a great ride, and I just hope that we can win this election, brother.
Well said. Words versus works. When you actually look at what's being done, it can change the perception of anybody. Speaking of that and works of the Trump administration, Van Jones on another network has the pesky habit of speaking truths on occasion, even though we don't agree on much. Here's a portion of what he said about President Trump's record with minorities. Listen.
Trump, and I get beat up by liberals every time I say this, so I'm going to keep saying it. He has done good stuff for the black community, and you know, opportunity zone stuff, black college stuff. I work with him on criminal justice stuff. I saw Donald Trump have African-American people formerly incarcerated in the White House, embraced them, treated them well. There's a side to Donald Trump that I think he does not get enough credit for.
Jack, you said you were sort of woke by the lack of actions from the Obama administration and certainly reinforced by the actions the president has taken. Will we see support amongst the black community higher than 2016?
Yes, you will. I mean, we're going to double the black vote. You know, I've worked hard with so many of my colleagues to build this Black Voices for Trump coalition. And I got to give a thank you to Van Jones, because this is a man who's actually worked with President Trump, who's actually sat next to him and actually really started to press these issues. And I've done the same thing. And anyone who's met President Trump says the same thing. He's so gracious, but he does what he says. And I think that's what it's all about in this election. And you already seen people like Ice Cube and 50 Cent and others that are coming out supporting this president. I think that is inspiring people like Van Jones to speak out, and I'm going to continue to speak out. And actually this week we got more prominent African Americans that will be coming out in support of this president, and we will double the vote.
Fascinating. You can only call somebody names for so long and ignore the actual record of what they've done as a human being. Jack Brewer, God bless you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
Got it. All right, still ahead, Halloween celebrations looking, unfortunately, a bit different this year. But you can still get the whole family into the spooky spirit, as they say. The tricks and treats you will need next.
Well, Halloween may look a little different this year, but it doesn't mean you can't have some safe and festive fun at home.
Here with some tricks and treats to help you do just that, lifestyle expert Limor Suss. Limor, welcome to the show. I love Halloween. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so of course Halloween is going to be a little bit different this year. And so what you want to do is you still want to deck out, you know, everything in festive decor. And so what I've done here is I actually decorated our outside. We did this yesterday. I put up some spooktacular lights. Of course, you want to do that with some damage free hooks. So I did that. I added the Command light clips over here. And then when you're done with Halloween decor, you can just put up the Christmas lights. And then over here, I made a candy wreath with the kids. And so just some stickers and some candy and just a really fun way to kind of still have some fun, even though it might be a little bit smaller this year. And of course, you want to get dressed up. And so even if you're not going anywhere or doing much of anything, you can get adorable costumes. But the CDC is recommending that even though your costume might come with a mask, to wear a face mask as well. So the costumes and the face masks are all from JCPenney. All the kids' costumes are from there. So you'll see them in just 1 second. But of course, trick-or-treating, if you are trick-or-treating this year, the CDC is recommending putting candy in other bags. But I have a really fun way to kind of keep your social distance and trick-or-treat at the same time. So check this out. I created a candy chute right over here. And this is just a shipping tube. You can get it right on Amazon. And this one is 4 feet. So you stand back a little, they stand back a little. And Aiden, you want to help? And you're just going to put the candy right inside the chute. And it comes out for trick-or-treaters. So a really fun way to kind of trick-or-treat and have some fun. Okay. We're done with the candy chute. Okay, so now we're going to... Okay, so now we're just like watching over dead bodies. Okay. Okay, so now think single serve. And so everything, think single serve. And so over here I have some gross gummies. I have some eyeballs and fangs and little fingers. I have spooky snacks over here. I have ghosts and Halloween colored, tortilla chips and cheese balls, a monster mix, and of course, witch's brew and witch's potion. If you want to have a high protein snack, I actually cut up some of the Jack Link's 100% premium beef jerky, cut it up, put it into little cauldrons, and you have a high protein snack and really delicious. And then, of course, single serve, I just got some, it's a little chilly outside, so I have some Swiss Miss hot cocoa. And then if you are going to do some marshmallows, you just want to put that into little containers. And then I have activities and snacks in one. And so over here, I created these little bento boxes for the kids. And you're going to make dirt cups, and we're going to make spider cups. And you just use the vanilla snack packs or the milk chocolate. Each one gets really fun. And then we have little buckets of Halloween fun as well.
Really good stuff.
You can go to @Limor Suss on her Instagram for all the ideas. You can also take that tube and turn it into a mortar tube and shoot the candy into the street.
Just
straight
tilt
at
it
the
up.
kids if you want to.
All right, still ahead. Thanks for more. President Trump.